with diamonds in our eyes. Out with the vampires under a midnight sky. My mind so hypnotized. It was exciting. It was the 90s. Mama didn't understand it, and Daddy always said that I was going too far. Said there's never any compromising if you try to win the battle to be who you are. I dance to the left, I dance to the right, hold hands with my demons and creatures of night, on an undercover mission to find somebody else like me. Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? Someone who can hear me and drink from the light, to see things from the same side. Is there anybody out there? 5 years later, I'm back with the same old faces and dead end places. Things kept going wrong. I'm getting to thinking my daddy was right all along. So will you take a little walk on the wild side? Be careful that you never slip your hands from the wheel. There's never any compromising when you're blinded by reflections from the part of you that's real. I dance to the left, I dance to the right, hold hands with my demons and creatures of night, on an undercover mission to find somebody else like me. Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out Someone who can hear me and drink from the light, to see things from the same side. Is there anybody out there? I dance to the left, I dance to the right, hold hands with my demons and creatures of night, on an undercover mission to find somebody else like me. Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? Someone who can hear me and drink from the light, to see things from the same side. Is there anybody out there?
Tonight, WWE paid tribute to the most important star in the history of the organization. And we've heard a lot of stories over the years about wrestlers who have passed away, because unfortunately there's been far too many of them. Many wrestlers, they don't make mainstream headlines. Some of them do. There have been some pretty big names, whether it's a Randy Savage or a Roddy Piper, people of that ilk. This, what we have seen over the last 24 hours, is something that we have never seen before in terms of a wrestler passing away. That is what we have seen with Hulk Hogan over the last 24 hours. Because Hulk Hogan passed away, as you are all well aware at this point, at the age of 71 yesterday. There has been a lot of talk now for many weeks about the state of his health. I've been talking about it and giving updates, and Bubba the Love Sponge has been spouting off about it now for weeks, that something was clearly very wrong because Hogan had been MIA for 2 months. At a very critical time for him, not just because of his beer that he's been shilling and going around the country selling, but because he has this new freestyle wrestling league starting up late next month that he's the commissioner of. He's the face of that entire project. And so for them, for him to kind of vanish off social media the way that he did, it could not have happened at a worse time. But as somebody who is typically very active on social media, it was very clear, okay, something's a little off here. And so then you get the news yesterday about what happened. And, even though it was, I don't want to say that it was completely unexpected because it sounded really bad. But still, when you hear something like that, it's still shocking. If you've been a wrestling fan for any length of time, if you've been a wrestling fan going back to the 80s, 90s, you are well aware of who Hulk Hogan is. And there's probably a very good chance that you became a wrestling fan on the back of that Hulkamania boom. Maybe you became a fan off the Monday Night War period and the NWO invading WCW, and Hogan is a heel and not as a babyface, right? Everyone is different. But to say that his passing would be the biggest, certainly of our generation, or that I can remember, would be an understatement. And in terms of his importance to this company, you saw that on display tonight because not everybody gets the 10 bell salute treatment. And that's how they opened the show tonight, with the entire SmackDown roster on stage, Triple H out there paying tribute, the 10 bell salute, the video package. And when you see it, when you watch it all back, it just drives home like the longevity that this man had in his career. And the impact that he had on the wrestling industry is immeasurable. So to say that this is one of the biggest stories of the entire year is putting it mildly. But Hulk Hogan has, in fact, passed away. And I am going to save a lot of what I would like to say for Sunday. So I've been mulling over my thoughts. I've got 1,000,001 things running through my head and memories, and things of that nature that I'll be able to share. And I'm going to save most of that and go in depth on that on the podcast on Sunday, as I have had to do many times before, unfortunately, for many wrestlers, many of whom are from Hogan's generation that are no longer with us. For everybody who goes back and watches an old WrestleMania or an old SummerSlam, it's morbid and it's sad, but you do the same thing, I'm sure, where you start counting the number of people, not who are dead, but who are still alive. And it's depressing, to go back and see that. But Hogan, again, his career has spanned so many different eras and so many different milestones. It's hard to even list them all. On TV tonight, they were listing out some of his accomplishments in terms of championships and 2-time Hall of Famer, and he's headlined, 8 WrestleManias and all of these, very important statistics. And I will say this, to me, in terms of his career, the most impressive accomplishment, other than his longevity, is the fact that he was the face of 2 different business booms in wrestling, in 2 different companies, 10 years apart, one as a babyface and one as a heel. There is nobody else, nowhere, who can say that. And it's almost unbelievable. But truly, he was the face of both of those boom periods and ushered in a period of prosperity for each one of those companies in a way that nobody else ever has. And to me, when you just consider his wrestling accomplishments, to me, that is the most impressive. Obviously, Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, as an individual, there's a lot more to it than just his wrestling accomplishments. And for all the good, and for all the positive, and for all the money he made, and as big of a draw as he was, there was also a negative side to it. One that cannot be ignored. And believe me, I won't. when I get into it. But people saying, well, it's been a complicated 24 hours. He's a complicated person. Well, I mean, that's certainly one word you could use to describe it. And people are going to have different feelings and different emotions about this whole thing. One thing that I think has been really sad to see, and it's sort of the story of social media, is the celebratory mood among certain people. Yeah, I even said this when the reports were going around about Hogan's health. And same with Ric Flair, who just the other day mentioned that he was cancer-free because he had been diagnosed with skin cancer. Two men that honestly, should be revered in their old age, right? Like, in a perfect world, these guys, as big as they were in the wrestling business and as successful as they were and trailblazers in their own way, like in a perfect world scenario, they would have retired, rode off into the sunset. They would have been great ambassadors to the wrestling industry. Their legacy's still intact and they would be revered by everybody. And that's not how real life works, as we can see. But I said, with all the reports going around about their health, one thing that I will not tolerate are people celebrating the fact that someone is sick, or celebrating the fact that someone is on their deathbed, or that someone, just died. I don't understand it. I think it's sick. And I don't tolerate that. And I've seen a lot of that on social media. So, when you ask, well, how come you've been quiet, on social media over the last day? Because I posted when Hogan passed away yesterday and didn't really say anything else. It's because social media is a cesspool. It really is. And it's hard not to be dragged down into that cesspool, because no matter what you say, it will be twisted and it will be criticized, and it'll start a whole chain of events that is not worth getting into. There's a time and a place. That will be Sunday on the podcast, when I will speak more just about the whole situation, because in all the years I've been doing the podcast, there really has not been a bigger death than this one. And as somebody who grew up as a child of the 80s and a wrestling fan back in the 80s, Hogan was certainly a big part of my childhood, growing up, and really a part of my whole life as a wrestling fan, because he never went away. He's been around for all these years, for the good, the bad, and the ugly. So there's a lot to unpack there. I will say I think WWE did a very classy job handling it tonight. The reception was obviously very different than the one he got earlier this year because a man passed away. And I was hoping that the crowd would be respectful of that. And they were. So it was not a situation where they were heckling or catcalling or anything like that. Again, time and place. But I thought the way they handled it was very well done. And we'll get into everything else that happened here on this show as well, because there was an episode of SmackDown tonight. Because we are a little more than a week away from SummerSlam, which is an event that Hulk Hogan appeared on many times in the early years. And in fact, he was one of the sort of the founding fathers of SummerSlam. Not just WrestleMania, but SummerSlam and Survivor Series. Like, these events were built around him at that time. The fact that these events were successful for Vince McMahon and WWE, in large part, Hogan could be credited for that, because so many of them were built around him. But we have another SummerSlam, the first two-night SummerSlam, coming up next weekend in New Jersey. And now we have a new match added to the SummerSlam card, and it will be tables, ladders, and chairs for the WWE Tag Team Championship, which is very appropriate because this is 25 years after the very first TLC match at SummerSlam. We are getting another one for the tag team titles. And it was mass chaos at the end of the show tonight. There was a tag team title match, had a DQ throwaway finish, led to the announcement by Nick Aldis that, in fact, the entire tag team division is being thrown into this match and the titles will be on the line. Cody Rhodes was on the show tonight. John Cena was not. John Cena was barely on the show last week, but he wasn't on the show tonight. Cody Rhodes, as I feel like he has done so many times before, since WrestleMania and even before WrestleMania, is forced to go out there and speak to us. Speak to an opponent who is not here because he's busy. He's making movies. He's doing other things. And so Cody has to go out there and basically just cut a Cody Rhodes promo and try to get people excited for the big main event, the big street fight coming up at SummerSlam. Jelly Roll was on the show tonight as well. He was in the ring doing spots with Logan Paul. This was not a good episode of SmackDown. This was a mostly boring episode of SmackDown. The Hogan tribute was nice. The rest of the show did next to nothing to get me excited for SummerSlam. I don't know about you guys, but it did next to nothing outside of what we got there at the very end to get me excited for SummerSlam. Hat tip to all those tag teams, though, and all the chaos we got. I'm very happy that those guys have made it onto the SmackDown card. They got the short end of the stick at WrestleMania this year. They were left out. Because we just had a TLC match in April, only a few months ago on SmackDown, and it was tremendous. But it was not WrestleMania. So those guys went out there with a chip on their shoulder and said, okay, you're going to leave us off the show? We'll show you. And they went out there and they had a kick-ass match and they tore the house down. So I was hoping that they would find space for them on a 2-night SummerSlam card. And I'm happy for them. I'm glad that they actually found them a spot. But this was not a good show. Now, as far as SummerSlam is concerned, we now know what matches are going to be taking place on which night. It was made official only a few hours ago, so let's run through it right now. This is the card as it stands for SummerSlam Saturday, August 2nd. As you can see, CM Punk and Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm sure that will be the main event. Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez defend the women's tag team titles against Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Randy Orton and Jelly Roll against Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. Tiffany Stratton defends the WWE Women's Championship against Jade Cargill. And just added this afternoon, the rematch, Sami Zayn, one-on-one with Karrion Kross. And that Saturday card looks pretty much locked in at this point. Then we move on to SummerSlam Sunday, which has John Cena and Cody Rhodes in the main event in a street fight for the WWE Championship. Dominic Mysterio defends the Intercontinental title against AJ Styles. We got Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa inside a steel cage for the U.S. title. Becky Lynch defends the Women's Intercontinental title against Lyra Valkyria. And the match that I am most looking forward to, out of pretty much everything on this show between either night, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. Triple threat match, they challenge Naomi for the Women's World Championship. That's the lineup for SummerSlam Sunday. Now, even though that's the match I'm most looking forward to, SummerSlam Saturday has the edge right now on SummerSlam Sunday. Although, you know what? Actually, you know what? I take that back because let's take a look at Sunday here. Sunday is likely where that TLC match is landing. So as you can see here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that'll give us an even 6 matches between both nights. So if we assume the TLC match is going to be on Sunday, well, you know what? Between that, Becky and Lyra, and the women's triple threat, I take that back. I'm looking more forward to SummerSlam Sunday. I stand corrected. SummerSlam Sunday is looking like the stronger of the two nights. But what I'll be doing is getting into all the predictions for SummerSlam on the podcast this weekend. I'll run through the SummerSlam card. We'll do predictions. And again, I will get much more in-depth in my thoughts, more of a formal obit on Hulk Hogan. That'll be on episode 922 on Sunday. I do hope you will tune into that. It will be an episode not to be missed. This is your SmackDown review here on this Friday night, July 25th, 2025. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for hanging out with me here on a Friday night. Like and subscribe. Super chats are open. See if we can hit a minimum 400 likes on this video. Thumbs up. We could do Be the Booker a little bit later on here on the stream. I will leave that up to you guys. But let's take it from the top here. because they opened the show, cold open here, with Paul Levesque standing on stage with the entire SmackDown roster. And they flew in a bunch of legends, friends of Hogan's, former adversaries of Hogan's, to be part of this. Eric Bischoff was invited to be part of this. He was not able to make it to Cleveland. But we had Jimmy Hart, and I feel bad for Jimmy. Jimmy Hart is a great guy. He really is. And he's the ageless wonder. Jimmy Hart's like 81 years old. Barely looks like he's aged. And I've never heard a negative story, a negative word said about Jimmy Hart. He's had this personal relationship with Hulk Hogan going back to the early 90s. And really what ended up happening was he became almost like Hogan's real-life manager. That's really what he became. When Hogan turned, or not turned, but when Hogan came back to WWE in 93, that's when we saw him on camera with Jimmy Hart. But they had known each other for a long time. And you could see here during this segment, Jimmy, he had the sunglasses on. He wouldn't take them off, but he was wiping the tears away. And I felt bad for him because, for him, he just lost probably his best friend in the whole world. So whenever I see Jimmy Hart cry, that breaks my heart. Jimmy Hart was there. Ted DiBiase, Brian Blair, Gerald Briscoe, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and Sergeant Slaughter were among the legends that they flew in for this. Bruce Pritchard was out there. He was standing next to Triple H. And Levesque said that they would not be here right now were it not for Hulk Hogan. And then they did a 10-bell salute. The crowd was very respectful for all of this, and they were cheering for Hogan. And then when they did the 10-bell salute, there were no issues there. Again, during a tribute segment for someone who died is not the time to be booing or whatting or catcalling or any of that nonsense. So that was nice to see. But then we got a long video tribute to Hogan's career. This was almost 7 minutes long. And it spanned his WWE career. It didn't really focus on his, AWA run, which is really where Hulkamania was born. Hulkamania was not born in the WWF. Hulkamania was born, literally by that name, in the AWA, in the Twin Cities. Vince took it, and he blew it up bigger than ever. But Hulkamania was a thing long before he got to New York. But they focused on his WWF run, his WCW run. This whole thing was narrated by Levesque. And it ended with Mean Gene Okerlund's voice saying, "Gone but not forgotten, the incredible Hulk Hogan." And it sounded just like him. I don't know if this was AI or if they had cobbled together clips of Gene and kind of spliced them together. I mean, I thought it was a nice touch having his voice there at the end. I mean, the two of them were associated for so long. And they were so synonymous, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. I mean, that just goes back way, way into the Wayback Machine. And when Mean Gene passed away, Hogan was the one that they flew in to Raw to do the tribute for him. So, again, whether it was AI or his actual voice, it was good to hear Mean Gene's voice at the end of this. But again, it was a nice, classy tribute to Hogan on the company's part. And where the company is concerned, forgetting anything else about Hogan, where the company is concerned, the company would not be where it is today if they were not able to lure Hulk Hogan away from Verne Gagne when they did. Like, that's just an undisputable fact. I don't know who Vince would have gone with in the absence of Hogan. Yeah, there was a period of time there where Jimmy Snuka was basically like the biggest baby face in the company. And then Snuka had his issues, which has been documented here before on the podcast. We know the trouble he got himself into. He disappeared, I think, maybe for a little bit, but it was not going to be Jimmy Snuka. I don't know who that person would have been. And whoever that person might have been, I don't know that they would have been as successful as Hogan. Hogan really was the right guy in the right place at the right time. It was all about charisma. That is how Hogan built his name. Hogan made millions of dollars and was super successful, not because he was a master technician in the ring. Hogan had that personality. He had that charisma. That's what got him over. People rag on the Ultimate Warrior for his nonsensical promos. Hogan's promos were almost as nonsensical as the Warrior's, but they drew you in. That was the case with all of the top stars back then. Savage, Hogan, Warrior, all those guys. They were all spewing nonsense. Piper. Half the shit they said didn't make sense. But boy, it was sure fun to hear him say it. Jake wouldn't scream and holler. He would make you lean in a little bit during his promos. But that's part of what made that era so great and so fun to watch. But again, it was Hogan. It was Hogan's charisma that got him over. And if Vince didn't hitch his wagon to him right when he was ready to go national, not sitting here probably talking about this show right now. Right? It's one of those great what-if questions. You can't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure they would have taken a different path and things might look very different than they do now. It really was a very mutually beneficial relationship, like two peas in a pod. You know, Vince and Hogan, they found each other at just the right time, and they went on to make a lot of money together. Now, after a break, the show actually got going with Logan Paul in the ring for a live edition of his Impulsive podcast. They were in Cleveland tonight, which is where Logan is from. Actually, he's from a suburb of Cleveland, but they don't seem to care for him there either. So he was interrupted by Jelly Roll, who got a nice reaction. And he asked Logan if he called himself an inspiration, because Logan had mentioned that he's an inspiration. He says, "Did you call yourself an inspiration? The only thing you've ever inspired is little asshole kids to act like assholes." They didn't censor any of this, by the way. Logan told him to shut his mouth and show some respect. He brought Jelly out here, he said, to let him know that he's getting in the ring with two of WWE's finest at SummerSlam. Who the hell does Jelly Roll think he is? And Jelly said that he's the guy that's going to put him in a body bag. Too soon, Jelly. Too soon. He's going to put him in a body bag and ship him back to Westlake. That's the suburb. That's right. That's where Logan's from. He says Logan has never had to struggle his entire life. He's been a silver spoon kid his entire life. He's not just getting in the ring for himself. Says he's getting in the ring for every poor kid with a dream that they would never make it, and they got picked on by high school jocks like him. Just so we're clear, he's getting in this ring to bring light to this ring. The only thing Logan's ever brought in here is a ring light.
You suck.
And how sad is it that that will go down as the last ever appearance on television for Hulk Hogan? That was earlier this year. Booed out of the building. And nobody to blame for that but himself. So when you hear people say it's a complicated thing, it is complicated. And he made it that way. And that's sad. That's really sad. That's the last, kind of the lasting image that people will have of him on WWE television. And he has nobody to blame for that but himself. He called Logan soft as Charmin and a prime peddling, what do you call him? A prime peddling puck-ass son of a bitch? I forgot what he said. He was firing off all these insults at him. Apparently it's okay for Jelly Roll to say it, and USA Network doesn't freak out about it. They don't mute the sound. Apparently now it's okay. So Drew McIntyre suddenly appears in the ring. I'm like, where the hell did he come from? He gets into the ring. Jelly tells both of them they made a really big mistake if they think that he came here tonight by himself. And he started singing Randy Orton's theme song. And then they played Orton's actual theme. And down to the ring, he power walked. Orton popped McIntyre right in the mouth. And everybody started brawling. McIntyre put Jelly Roll down. And he mounts him, and he's about to start raining punches down on him, but he stops, and he looks over at Logan in the corner and says, "He's all yours." So Logan gets on top of Jelly Roll, starts firing away. Orton drags Drew out of the ring. So this briefly distracts Logan. just long enough to allow Jelly Roll to get back up to his feet. He throws a back elbow at Logan and then delivers a shoulder tackle as Logan comes off the ropes. And I swear, he barely moved. Jelly Roll, he didn't really do anything. He just stood there. This was all Logan. Logan was the one who was actually making movement here and bumping for this guy. All Jelly Roll had to do was stick his elbow out, stick his arm out, lunge his shoulder forward a little bit. Logan made a comeback. He tried to throw the deadly right hand. Jelly Roll, though, ducked it and caught him coming off the ropes with a black hole slam. And I love how Joe Tess on commentary, he called it a black hole slam, and then immediately said, he followed that up and said, boss man slam. I guess it all depends on when you grew up as a fan or when you started watching. For me, it was always the boss man slam. But then Abyss obviously made it very popular as the black hole slam. To me, I use it interchangeably. Mostly I call it the boss man slam. But it's funny, he mentioned it one way and then immediately mentioned it the other way. And so that was that. So Jelly Roll got to show off some moves here. He stood tall with Randy Orton. I don't care for this match. I know why they're doing it. I get it. Jelly Roll is a big fan. The fans love him. He's gotten great reactions. And I know he's been putting the time in at the Performance Center. And they're going to teach him only what he needs to know. And maybe he'll show off some stuff at SummerSlam that will actually impress me. That I won't be expecting. I'm not expecting him to be Bad Bunny and do a Canadian Destroyer. Although you never know. So I'm sure he's taking this very seriously. He is a major celebrity. He did the Jimmy Kimmel thing last week. It's great publicity for WWE. I get it. I understand it. I would be very interested in doing the same thing, frankly. If I were a promoter and I can get somebody like Jelly Roll to come in and work a match and plug my show for me, of course I would want to do that. But I would be lying to you if I told you that this was a match I was looking forward to at SummerSlam. It's a match on the card. And as long as Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre carry the load here, I mean, not that Logan can't, but Orton and Drew, are the ones that I'd really like to see kind of carry the load in this match. Then it should be fine. Again, here it looked like, for the most part, outside of the black hole slam, all he was really doing was standing there. And that's what they probably told him to do. And Logan, of course, he can just bounce off of him, right? Create movement. That's all they need to do. They don't need to do anything more than that. We had Alexa Bliss one-on-one against Roxanne Perez. This time, Charlotte Flair was out in Alexa's corner. Last time it was Charlotte who had Alexa in her corner with the black cheerleader pom-poms. So this time, Charlotte had the black cheerleader pom-poms. It was the other way around in Charlotte's match with Raquel Rodriguez last week. Bliss hit Roxanne with a couple of early strikes. Perez went to ringside. Bliss hit a cannonball dive off the apron. Raquel, who was out there, approached Roxanne, and Charlotte walked over and cut her off. This took us into picture-in-picture. Bliss set up for Sister Abigail. Perez, though, raked the eyes. And while the referee scolded Roxanne, Rodriguez choked Bliss over the bottom rope. Flair ended up dumping Raquel over the barricade into the timekeeper's area. Bliss went up top, and she was setting up for Twisted Bliss. She was going to put this thing away, but she looked outside, and she was distracted because Raquel had come back. I think she had booted Charlotte down, and she got Charlotte between her legs, and she was teasing a powerbomb on the floor. And Alexa sees this, and so Alexa Bliss decides to hit Twisted Bliss instead to Raquel out on the floor. And when Alexa came up, she was holding her nose. Her nose was bleeding. But she gets back into the ring. Roxanne rolls her up, grabs hold of the bottom rope, which the referee did not see, and she gets the pin. So Alexa, the Ohio girl, takes the loss here in Cleveland. So we had Charlotte beat Raquel last week, and now this week, Roxanne turns around and beats Alexa. So we're 50-50. Going into the women's tag team title match at SummerSlam. Now, in the back later, Alexa Bliss is sitting there. She's got a tissue. and because her nose is still bleeding and there's blood smeared all over her face. She's got this bloody tissue in her hand, and Charlotte Flair sits down next to her. I mean, this woman had a bloody nose, and the way the blood was smeared all over her face, she looked like the victim of a violent crime. Charlotte sits next to her, tries to cheer her up. Alexa thought she was about to use the word friends to describe themselves. Charlotte said partners. She said, maybe after we win the tag team titles at SummerSlam. We'll see. And she left, and Alexa muttered to herself she was going to say friends. I love the story that Charlotte against Alexa was the original plan, which I believe it was, for SummerSlam. I've seen that reported by more than just Meltzer. I think he was the first one I saw report that, but I don't know if it was Fightful or WrestleVote. Somebody mentioned the same thing. And I can believe that. I can believe that WWE wanted to do Charlotte against Alexa. Charlotte went to Triple H, she went to management, whoever it was, and said, no, we got a good thing going here. I want to keep this going. Good on her. She looks like she's genuinely having fun out there. The fans are reacting to her favorably. Why the fuck would you want to deviate from that? You've got tons of mileage in this team, and they should win the tag team titles. So I don't understand, why, if that was in fact the idea, that by putting them in a match, that was going to be the end of their partnership. I don't know why you would do that. Like, it's working so well. And Charlotte clearly was thinking the same thing. So I'm glad that she stood up and said, no, I want to keep this team together. Why break up something that's working? Doesn't make any sense. Oh, wait.
Shut the
Hold on.
fuck up.
Gotta let him do his thing.
Fuck that tree.
There you go. I think that was Neil. Thank you, sir. You can get those messages in. You got questions and comments. We'll read through them here in a little bit. Backstage, Kathy Kelly interviewed Jade Cargill, who said that she was going to show everybody at SummerSlam why she is a natural-born champion. Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, and Alba Fire, they show up after Jade left the picture. Chelsea sent Niven and Fire off to go secure the perimeter and go fetch her some coffee. Then Chelsea badmouthed Jade, who, unbeknownst to her, popped up behind her. She was standing there listening to this entire thing. And finally, after a while, Chelsea got the message. Kathy Kelly was kind of, trying to give her some signals here. And Chelsea says, she's behind me, isn't she? And she turned around and she smiled and she was trying to be all friendly and she got popped right in the mouth by Jade. So she ends up getting roughed up by Jade a little bit. Jade picks her up on her shoulders. They're in the gorilla position now. And Jade gets her up on her shoulders in a fireman's carry position and carries her out onto the stage and dumps her down. Jade threw Chelsea in the ring where a referee just so happened to be, waiting for whatever the next match was going to be. Well, guess what? We got a match now. We have an impromptu match between Jade and Chelsea. And Jade was dominant through a break. She had a one-handed chokeslam. On the apron, Alba Fire provided a momentary distraction that allowed Chelsea to hit a jumping neckbreaker for a near fall. Chelsea tried to deliver the unpretty her. Cargill reversed out of it and finished things off with Jaded. Not much of a match, but when it was over, the Secret Hervis, they pounced on Jade until Tiffany Stratton, who of course is defending her title against Jade at SummerSlam, ran down to the ring to make the save. The two of them cleared the heels from the ring. Jade looked down and saw the WWE Women's Championship, and she picked it up and she posed with it. Tiffany didn't like this. She wanted her belt back, and she went to grab it away. Jade held on, so we got that photo op there of the two of them holding on. Thankfully, not really a tug of war like Brock and Roman, but they were holding on to the championship before Tiffany took the title and left. I'm guessing they didn't announce anything, but I would venture a guess that we may be getting a tag team match on SmackDown next Friday. Tiffany and Jade against the Secret Hervis. Can they coexist? We may get that on SmackDown next week. So as they were running Hogan highlights throughout the night, coming out of some of the commercial breaks, and they only did it maybe 2 or 3 times, they showed highlights of Hogan beating the Iron Sheik at Madison Square Garden, January 23rd, 1984, when he won his very first WWE Championship. I'm sure you've seen this a million times. Cody Rhodes was out to the ring next, and he started his promo talking about Hulk Hogan, talking about his death. He said he knows emotions and feelings about it are complicated. There's that word again. But what's not complicated are his accomplishments and contributions to the business. He says they are staggering and they are indisputable. So as someone who gets to stand here and call himself a WWE superstar, Hogan was the original, and he just wanted to take a moment to say, "Thank you, Hulk Hogan." And then he moved on. Said, now, Cleveland. There are street fights, and then there is what's going to happen at SummerSlam. We are talking about violence. The thing is, he doesn't want to wrestle this John Cena. He doesn't want to fight a guy who didn't even want this match in the first place. A guy who's busy counting down the number of dates that he has left before he's out the door. He wants to fight the real John Cena because he needs to know that he can go through the very best. This isn't about nostalgia. It's about a once-in-a-generation superstar. So John Cena, if this is your last SummerSlam, come as if it is your first. He says, talk to Stu, the cameraman, when you come out. Wear the title around your waist the right way. Run down to the ring. Bring all the hustle, loyalty, and respect so they can beat it out of each other. I got news for you. I don't think that we have seen that John Cena that he's referring to since the Royal Rumble in 2017 at the Alamo Dome when he had that last great match with AJ Styles and he won number 16 to Ty Flair. That's the last time that we saw that version of John Cena who went out there and had a truly great match. That John Cena is dead and gone. And I don't think he ain't ever coming back. He said he needs to know. He needs to know that this story is not just fantasy. He needs to know that it meant something. And that the only person who has the answer to do that and answer that question is you, John Cena. I'll see you next week. So we're going to get Cena on the show next week, which makes sense. It's the go-home show the night before. I mean, they're wrestling that Sunday, but the night before SummerSlam kicks off. We got to see John Cena a grand total of 1 time in the entire month of July. Think about that. It's hard to promote a match when only one half of that match has time to show up. I'm not saying like when one person cares enough to show up. Like John Cena's a busy guy. I took him at his word. You know, when he said that he was clearing his schedule for his retirement year, I took it literally to mean that he was putting all projects on hold and he was going to dedicate the entire year to WWE. Even if he wasn't on television every single week, he would be there most of the time. And as it turned out, that was not the case. He's still doing movies and other things, and so we don't get to see him very often. And the number of dates that he has left is obviously growing shorter by the week. And it makes it difficult, you know, when he's the champion. They put the title on him at WrestleMania. Now we're going into SummerSlam. Cody Rhodes has to go out there and sell this match for the most part with an absentee champion because John Cena, for the most part, just is not around. And that makes it very difficult to do. So, you know, what we got here was a Cody Rhodes promo. It was fine. He did what he could to try to explain why this match is so important. I want the old John Cena and all that stuff. But, okay. Great. Well, we're not going to get the old John Cena. The old John Cena doesn't exist anymore. We're going to get the best John Cena we can get. That's why they added the stipulation in part, I'm sure, because now they have all these different weapons and things at their, disposal that they can use instead of giving us the same match we got at WrestleMania, which sucked. Now they could have gimmicks and smoke and mirrors and plunder and all kinds of stuff and toys to play with. Look, the version of John Cena we got at Backlash, he had a very good match with Randy Orton. Even the match with CM Punk, I thought was a good match. But it's not the old John Cena. If the old John Cena was still there, we would have seen him at some point by now. He ain't there no more. The stipulation will allow them to do things they couldn't do at WrestleMania. I hope it's a low bar that they set at WrestleMania. It would be hard for them to go out there and have a worse match than the one they had. And it's not just the finish of the match, which was so fucking horrendous. Like, truly, truly. As I think back to it now, it actually makes me angry. The way that they squandered a perfectly good story with number 17 and the way that they did with Travis Scott and just the way that whole thing played, it was such a waste. Such a waste. There's nothing we can do about that now. But even the match up until that point, some people were like, oh no, the match was good up until... No. I mean, maybe you thought it was. I thought it was boring. So the bar is very low. I'm expecting them to go out there and at least do better than they did in April. Whatever that looks like. And for the love of God, let's get that belt back on Cody. We all know that belt is going to end up back on Cody anyway. If John Cena is not able to fully commit, we still have many more months before we get to that retirement match. There's no reason for him to still be the champion in December. He doesn't need the title. I know he said, I'm going to retire as the champion and take it home with me and ruin wrestling. He doesn't need to be the champion going into the fall. So I'm hoping we will put an end to this title run and begin the redemption arc at SummerSlam. They aired footage of last week's car accident angle that opened the show out in the parking lot with Solo Sikoa's crew and Jacob Fatu as the accused. So then we cut back live backstage to Jacob Fatu, who cut a promo. He said he loves Solo Sikoa, but he tried to send him to jail after he had told his family and everybody else that he was never going back. Fatu said that he didn't mind being locked down in a cage for the U.S. title, and he would dog walk Solo's ass. The Miz showed up and got a pretty good reaction from the fans in the arena because, of course, Miz is another Cleveland boy. Hey, Ace Italiano. What's going on? My glorious friend, thank you for the $19.99. Good to hear from you, brother. Glorious indeed. Miz said that he and Fatu had unfinished business. Said that Fatu put him out just long enough for him to remember who the hell he is. Miz said that he's not a target, he's the main character. He went to Nick Aldis and got them a match tonight. He says, I'm the Miz and I'm back. Before slapping the dog piss out of Jacob Fatu. Holy shit. What a slap. He slapped the taste out of this guy's mouth. And Fatu just laughed in his face. And he asked him, so that's what it's coming to. He says, well, come on with it. And Miz just headed out to the ring while Wade Barrett asked, what the hell did the Miz just do? That's what I was asking. Hey, I'm digging more serious Miz. This was like a take no shit, no nonsense kind of Miz here in this segment. I could get used to that. I'd like to see more of that. Even though I knew he was about to get his ass kicked here. Slapped the soul out of that boy, and he just barely flinched. They had a pretty good vignette here with back and forth comments from Damian Priest and Aleister Black, and confirmed that they will be wrestling not at SummerSlam, but they will be wrestling on SmackDown next Friday. I was kind of thinking that they would add this to SummerSlam Sunday because they just added Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross to SummerSlam Saturday. By the end of the show, we got the announcement of the tag team title match, and that is a bigger match, so I don't argue with that being on the SummerSlam card. But correct me if I'm wrong, in the few months that Aleister Black has been back in the company, I think he has yet to have a PLE match, right? Because he didn't qualify for Money in the Bank, so I don't even think he's had a single PLE match yet. Gonna have to change that very soon. least Karrion Kross is getting one. Although the reports are that he still hasn't even had any conversations with WWE about a new contract. Unless they're kayfabbing us. I find that hard to believe, especially now that he's got a SummerSlam match. You mean to tell me that he has had no conversations and had no offers from WWE to renew a contract that is supposedly expiring in August? I find that very hard to believe. We had Jacob Fatu one-on-one against The Miz. Fatu rocked Miz with his running, spinning elbow early on. Miz avoided a running hip attack from Fatu. Could not avoid the strike that followed. Solo Sikoa and his MFTs, they walked down to the ring, which allowed Miz to clip Fatu's knee, and then he sent him shoulder first into the ring post. Fatu fell out of the ring to the floor, and the MFTs looked down at him as they cut to a commercial break. We come back to both men now down in the ring. Fatu delivers a clubbing clothesline and a senton. Corner avalanche from Fatu. Then we got a sequence of 10 headbutts, followed by a running hip attack. Tonga Loa and JC Mateo, they pull Miz out of the ring, so Fatu hits a suicide dive out onto all three. Tala Tonga eats the ring post, and then Fatu super kicks Solo before heading back into the ring to hit Miz with a great-looking pop-up Samoan drop, which is enough to get the pin. That was cool. I was actually happy he got the pin with that. It looked great. It's like every now and then they let Sami Zayn win with a Blue Thunder Bomb. So he got to win here with the pop-up Samoan drop, which usually does not happen. After the match, Solo and the MFTs, they go on the attack. And this prompts Jimmy Uso to run out with a steel chair. He just chucks it at JC Mateo's, JC Mateo's face. Chucks it right at him. Solo gets low bridged, and then there's chair shots for Tala Tonga. But he just fires up, and he boots Jimmy down. That allows everybody else to get back on the attack. Fatu tries to make his own save with super kicks and a hip attack to Solo. Fatu gets the chair, and he wraps it around Solo's neck. He's down in the corner. And he's going to give him the assisted running hip attack here. He's going to kill this man. But as he comes out of the opposite corner, Tala Tonga is there to intercept, and he turns him inside out with a clothesline. I have to say, I don't think in all the years I've been watching wrestling, and I'm gonna throw in the Giant Gonzalez here with his furry costume, as ridiculous as he looked, because he really was just a gigantic man, fucking 7'5", 7'6", whatever he was, legit. But in all the years I've been watching wrestling, I don't recall seeing a less intimidating 7-foot monster than Tala Tonga. I'm struggling. I'm struggling to think of somebody who just comes off as less intimidating to me. He's got to ramp that up. He's got to ramp that fire up. Tala Tonga helps Solo up, and then he drops Fatu with a chokeslam. Solo then hits a Samoan spike, and he yells that he will be champion forever. This is his Terry Funk impression. And he holds up the U.S. title. This is just rinse repeat with these guys at this point. The MFTs get their asses kicked. This time, though, they were able to get their heat back, I guess, kind of, after what happened last week, and they stand tall to end the segment. But this isn't doing it for me. And it's not doing anything, I feel like, for Jacob. You know, I mean, it's not killing him or anything, but I feel like we've now taken this, coming out of SummerSlam, we have now taken this as far as we can go with it. So I'm hoping that Jacob will get the belt back and that he can move on to something else. Because to just continue to run this back into Paris or into Perth, like, feels like the same thing every week. We go to the back with Kathy Kelly, who was with the Street Profits and B-Fab. She wanted their perspective on what Rey Fenix and Andrade need to do tonight to capture the tag team titles from the Wyatt Sicks. They said that the Wyatt Sicks has to be dealt with in a certain kind of way. They were also very upset that they were not included in the qualifying match on the show last week. At this point, DIY showed up. Johnny Gargano told them they lost the titles. They blew it. The Profits laughed at them, and Dawkins pointed out that Johnny kicked Ciampa in the face last week by accident. This enraged Tommaso Ciampa. Candice LeRae piped up and told them, stay out of our way. They aired footage of Hulk Hogan slamming the 900-pound Andre the Giant in front of 113,000 people at WrestleMania 3, after which 4 days later, Andre passed away. So we got highlights of that. They also had a graphic on the screen that noted that Hogan main evented WrestleMania a total of 8 times. He really was. He was Mr. WrestleMania long before Shawn Michaels ever was. He was and will forever be the face of WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels is Mr. WrestleMania now, just in terms of his body of work, which I don't know that anybody will ever be able to match or exceed that. But Hogan would have main evented WrestleMania 9 times. If this company had any sense, he would have been headlining with Rock in Toronto. Triple H and Jericho, they just never stood a chance. Coming after that match, never stood a chance. One of my favorite matches of all time. Backstage, Zelina Vega approached the United States champion Julia when Kiana James interrupted. Remember I noted last week there was a backstage segment? I don't remember who was in the segment offhand, but in the background, if you squinted your eyes, you could see Julia and what appeared to be Kiana James walking side by side in the background. And so here she is here on this show. There was something going on there. Kiana, for those who don't know, she's been out of action.
I am the
Shut the fuck up. Fuck that tree.
Kiana James has been out of action for over a year. She had a knee injury. She had just been called up to the main roster, to Monday Night Raw. I think she was drafted to Monday Night Raw from NXT. A few weeks, and then she vanished. Well, because she got hurt. So last week, I said, spotted her in the background. She also wrestled before the show. So it's been a while since we've seen her on TV. But she's a good talker, though. I can't really speak to her in-ring ability because it's been so long. Honestly, I can't tell you. I cannot point out to you a memorable Kiana James match from NXT that you need to go back and check out. There is none. It doesn't exist. So for her, it's a clean slate. But she can talk. She's got this character that she portrays, and she, carries herself in a very confident way. And so I think this is a good spot for her to be in. So now she's going to be Julia's representative on SmackDown. Vega blew her off, didn't even want to talk to her. She told Julia, I want my rematch. James said that she already spoke to Nick Aldis and said Vega would get her rematch next week on the show. And Kiana said that when Julia beats Vega again, Zelina would be nothing more than a footnote. And Julia says that she likes a good challenge. And then she and Kiana exit stage left. I like the idea of Kiana as Julia's mouthpiece. It's a way to reintroduce her to TV, and at the same time limiting Julia's promos because, again, she's still learning English, right? She could speak English. That's the thing. It's not like she can't communicate in these promos. They were running promos for her leading into the match with Zelina when she won the U.S. title, and they put subtitles on the screen. I could clearly understand everything she was saying, but they had the subtitles there anyway. It's clearly not her strong suit. So I think the idea of putting somebody with her as she continues to learn the language and get comfortable with it is a smart move. All Julia has to do is just stand there and look dangerous and look beautiful, right? The beautiful madness is just stand there because she looks like a star. She doesn't have to speak. She doesn't have to say anything if she doesn't want to. Let Kiana do the talking for her. I don't think this means Kiana James is done wrestling. Kiana wrestled a match on Main Event last week, so just because she's doing this doesn't mean that she's done in the ring. Again, I just look at it as a way to reintroduce her to the show and just add to the presentation when it comes to Julia. And you know what? If it helps get Julia more TV time, I'm all for it because that's what she needs. The only way she's ever going to get over on the main roster is to get her on the show. Even when the show was still 3 hours, we were barely seeing her. So it might be tougher now, but let's not pretend like it was happening so often before. If this helps that along a little bit, then I think that's a good thing. The main event of this show had Rey Fenix and Andrade challenging the Wyatt Sicks for the WWE Tag Team Championship. Fenix and Andrade, they came into this show with a 4-0 record as teammates. Coming out of an early break in the action, we came back with Fenix connecting on a super kick to Dexter Lumis. Andrade got the tag. He was a house of fire against Lumis and Joe Gacy. He nailed Gacy in the corner with a running Meteora, but that only got a 2 count. Andrade looked for the message. Gacy, though, reversed as Lumis tagged in. Fenix tried to interject, but he got thrown aside. Andrade countered the assisted powerbomb attempt with double knees. Fenix leapt to the floor to eliminate Lumis at ringside. This allowed Andrade to deliver the message to Gacy, and he got the 1, he got the 2, and then Nikki Cross pulled the referee out of the ring. And at that point, the referee called for the disqualification. The crowd was not happy with this finish. Neither was I. Eric Rowan entered the ring. He laid waste to Andrade. Fraxium and the Motor City Machine Guns ran in. They also got laid to waste, or I should say Rowan laid waste to them and took them all out. The Street Profits joined the fray. They took out Rowan. DIY walked down the ramp with Nick Aldis in tow. He was walking down. They were walking down to the ring with Nick Aldis the way that wrestlers run down to the ring with a referee when they're ready to cash in Money in the Bank. So I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on here. They bring Aldis down to the ring with them. In the ring, the Profits took turns taking flight to eliminate everybody outside the ring, including the obligatory Montez Ford dive out over the ring post onto the pile outside. So Aldis gets on the mic and he goes, "Enough, I've had enough." And he announced that at SummerSlam, the entire SmackDown Tag Team division is going to compete in a tables, ladders, and chairs match. And they will suspend the tag team titles high above the ring. And the first team to pull the titles down will be the WWE Tag Team Champions. And this was not the end of all of the chaos here. The fighting continued. Tommaso Ciampa, he dove off the top rope onto another pile on the floor outside. And they went off the air with just total bedlam and chaos. Referees and agents and security, they were trying to intervene and get in between everybody. So that was a hell of a way to go off the air. The fans got over their displeasure with that finish real quick when Aldis made the TLC announcement. And it's just appropriate. 25 years later, after the very first TLC match at SummerSlam, we are getting another one. That had 3 teams. This one has, 5, 6? It's basically every team in the division except Pretty Deadly, because one of the members of Pretty Deadly is hurt. Everybody else is basically accounted for except for, I guess, Angel and Berto, right? I guess they're not involved. But you've got the Street Profits, you've got DIY, the Machine Guns, Fraxium, Andrade and Rey Fenix, and the Wyatt Sicks. It's a hell of a lineup there. Now, again, we just had a TLC match on SmackDown back in April because these guys got left off the WrestleMania card. 2 nights of WrestleMania. And a tag team division that, on SmackDown anyway, was on fire going into that show. And they could not find time for these guys. So they put them on SmackDown. I think it was the Friday after WrestleMania. And they got the main event all to themselves. And they went through like 3 commercial breaks, and it was a kick-ass match. It was great. But now you have a 2-night SummerSlam. And these teams are, you got a couple of new faces thrown in there, but these teams are still going at it. It's like, you got to get these guys a spot on the show. Right? The Raw Tag Team titles, there's really nothing going on right now, but you got to get these guys on the show. It's only right. How do you not find a spot for these guys? So when they made the announcement, I was thinking, oh, they're just going to throw them out there on SmackDown or something. I was very happy. I'm happy for them. Because you know it had to bother them, right? You always want to be on the big shows of the year. I don't know that it means what it used to mean, where you get paid more if you're on those shows. I don't know. The way that things work now with their contracts and TKO, they probably don't. But you still want to be in that spot. So I'm glad that they added this match to the show. The chaos and everything that was going on at the end of the show made for a fun finish, but this was not a good show. It was a table setter. for not even SummerSlam so much as just the go-home show next week. But that's what this show tonight was. It was a table setter. It was not a very exciting one outside of all the madness there at the very end. Tonight was really about paying tribute to Hulk Hogan, because that just happened, because he is also the biggest star in the history of the company. So that really was kind of the main theme of the show tonight. It wasn't an entire tribute show, but they paid tribute to Hogan, and then the stuff at the end. And honestly, everything else was just kind of there. This is a very missable episode, and me personally, it did nothing to get me any more excited to want to see SummerSlam next weekend. I'm happy that the tag teams have been added, but outside of that, it failed in that mission. Now, I won't be here next week for the go-home show. I'm going to be working House of Glory the night before SummerSlam. That's where I'll be. But if you are watching SmackDown next week, I certainly hope that they do a better job next week of making that show more exciting. But being that it's the go-home show, I don't know. They did announce a few things, though, for next week's show. So I'm hoping it's a better effort than the one they gave us tonight. What did you think of SmackDown from Cleveland? There's the Twitter poll. 69.7% thumbs up. 30% thumbs down. Maddie says, "Are you enjoying the ride, Solomonster?" Not really. It's not the worst ride I've ever taken, but it's not the best. How about that? I've been on much better rides going into SummerSlam before. The highway to hell, this is not. Good things tend to happen when Solo doesn't go live. Well, then you should be thanking me after next week's show. I hope you get a great show next week. I hope whatever they do on next week's show gets you super excited for SummerSlam. That's the whole point of a go-home show. The Hot Wheels historian, welcome to the channel. Good to have you. Used to buy myself some Hot Wheels as a, well, I didn't buy it, my parents did, but as I used to play with my Hulk Hogan LJN and Thundercats and He-Man, there you had the Hot Wheels too. I told you, child of the 80s. Let me go through your super chat messages here. Get them on in. Again, we are at 453 likes. I appreciate that. Let's see if we can get to 500. But we did hit the goal for Be the Booker, so I thank you for that. Start with I Love Dogs 9522. I should mention, I mentioned this on TNT the other day, but I'll mention it here too. I had a conversation with YouTube. I reached out to YouTube about all this name nonsense, since everything now is showing an @ handle. People lost their custom names they came up with. You're going to have to deal with it, because this is a new feature that YouTube is rolling out. And there is no opt-out. That was my first question. I said, well, can you opt out? Like channel by channel? They said, nope. So get used to it. Ain't nothing I can do. This is the way it is. I don't know why they create these new features that make things worse. I don't know why they do that. Anyway, he says, favorite Hogan lie. He says, mine was him saying that he wrestled 400 days a year, traveling to Japan and back. Well, I've covered so many of them over the years. There's almost too many of them to choose from.
It's the amazing Gunther. Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Elijah with the big Gunther bomb. Thank you, Elijah. Dry Chicken says, well, do some Hulk Hogan tributes tonight. To honor Hogan, buy or sell Hulkamania outfit or NWO Hollywood Hogan outfit. I mean, I grew up on the red and yellow.
I am the Lord.
Shut the fuck up.
So I gotta go red and yellow.
Fuck that tree.
Holiday 197 says, hey Solo, Drew and Randy both deserve something better at SummerSlam. Here's to hoping Logan is pinned at SummerSlam, because if it's Drew, this would be tragic. Randy and Jelly are totally winning. Yeah, I mean, they probably are. I would certainly agree with you that Logan, if anything, should be the one taking the losing fall. It's bad enough that Drew McIntyre didn't have something better to do on this show. But if he's going to be in this match, I certainly don't want to see him getting pinned, taking the loss for his team. Fried Chicken says, let me tell you how AJ Styles can get Dominic Mysterio in more trouble, brother. AJ Styles puts hidden cameras in the Judgment Day clubhouse and records, catches Dirty Dom and Roxanne smooching on the couch. Well, if he's going to do it, he's only got 1 week left to do it. After Clash in Paris, I'm taking a break from watching WWE main roster shows. I'm tired of watching the Triple H soldiers. Well, as long as you don't take a break from these streams, it's fine with me. I watch so you don't have to. Joe Chilton. 10 years ago fired, now gone. Scary. Thanks, Hulk. Arabian Night got less than half an hour of wrestling tonight. WWE under TKO really is all about long entrances and ad break spam. Aleister Black still has not had a PLE match. Yeah, I mentioned that. I can't think of one that he's had since he's come back, but he came back. When did he come back? Was it May or April? It was on that SmackDown, that SmackDown after Mania, right? Yeah, I mean, there have been a few PLEs since then. It's too bad he hasn't been on any of them. You know what though? I'm happy that we are actually seeing him in a singles feud. I just got so tired of seeing him doing the constant trios stuff and tag team stuff in AEW. I said, you have a guy here who you can utilize as a single star. And unless you're just covering for an injury, which, you know, he would come out on social media and say, I'm not hurt. It's like, well, then it doesn't make any sense to me. So just him being in this feud with Damian Priest, I'm digging it, because this is what I was hoping to see him doing in AEW. I don't know what is going on with these fucking super chats. They sound like they are sick with the flu or something. Thank you, Alex. Jungle Batman, what are your favorite scenes in Mr. Nanny? I don't have any favorite scenes in Mr. Nanny. That was not my favorite Hogan movie. That would be No Holds Barred. His cameo, though, in the movie theater in Gremlins 2 was quite good. Especially because he was sitting in the movie theater in full red and yellow Hulkamania gear with the Winged Eagle title around his waist, eating popcorn. Jungle Batman, were you a fan of the show Thunder in Paradise? Yes, I used to watch it. I used to sing the theme song. It was very catchy. Jack Lemon's son Chris was Hogan's co-star on that show. I think it was Hogan, Chris Lemon, and Carol Alt, right? I believe so. Jungle Batman, did you know Hulk Hogan was up for the role of Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin? I don't know if that's true or not. When it comes to Hogan, if it was something he said, I just automatically am skeptical of it. That may be true. I'm not aware of that, though. No, Jesse Ventura was in that movie. Neil, just wanted to pop in to say, hope you're doing well. I'm sure it's going to be an excellent stream. The best podcaster in the game, and rest in peace to the Hulkster. Hey, Neil, thank you, brother. Thank you for that $10 drop. Jungle Batman, did you know Hulk Hogan and Christopher Lloyd was almost cast in the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito roles in Twins before they were cast in Suburban Commando? Ah, Suburban Commando. That was another favorite of mine. I was frozen today. I watched that several times back then. Anthony Dominic is Michael Cole's Adam Sandler's twin. Is Michael Cole's Adam Sandler's twin? I don't know what that means, but no. I don't see any similarities at all. We've got the completionist. Hulkamania may be gone, but Pastamania is forever. Dude, Pastamania, I don't even think Pastamania lasted a year. L.A. Bryan, how come we never got a Batista versus Brock Lesnar match? I felt WWE missed an opportunity a few years back. I don't know that there was really any interest in that a few years ago. But I guess their paths just never crossed. Had Brock not left the company in 2004, eventually we would have gotten it for sure. Jungle Batman, how different would WWE and wrestling be today if Hulk Hogan had returned to WWE in 1998 and had the match with Stone Cold at WrestleMania 14 with Mike Tyson as the special enforcer? Wrestling today wouldn't be any different because Austin was winning no matter what. If Hogan had come back in 98, they weren't going to have him against Austin in the WrestleMania main event. That would have been too quick. They would have built something up for the following year. And that's when politics gets involved and, you know, what kind of impact does that have on Austin's push? The best thing that could have happened was Hogan not coming back in 98. The completionist, I assume he'll be cremated. Even in death, he'll refuse to be buried. Could be. Dry Chicken, it's crazy that Rick Derringer, the one who did Hogan's song. Well, remember, it was not originally supposed to be Hogan's song. Hogan ended up with it. And he became synonymous with it. And it is very eerie that they passed away within a couple of months of each other. That's very crazy. Linkmaster, rest in peace, Hulk. Hey, Linkmaster, thank you. Jungle Batman, do you think Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold are the two greatest wrestlers of all time? They are the two most popular in WWE history. And two of the biggest names in the history of the business. Jackal, 9/11. Hulk Hogan was my childhood. Started watching due to Hulkamania. Real American was on repeat in my home as a kid. Lots of controversy follows him, but I still feel like a part of my childhood died yesterday. It was a very weird feeling. Uffman Entertainment, 25 years, you say? Watch along. I make no promises, but I'm open to it. It's a matter of finding the right time for it. I've been trying to work on some of these Be the Booker editions. It's very more time consuming than you might think. Duff's Vids. What happens when Catwoman kisses Batman? The Dark Knight Rises. It's a good one. Also happens to be the second best of the series. The Dark Knight is still number one. But yes, the Dark The Dark Knight would indeed rise. Jungle Batman says, I think Liv Morgan is returning at SummerSlam next week to help Dominic Mysterio retain the Intercontinental title, and Liv Dom reunites and celebrates their 1-year anniversary together. Well, unless she's going to show up in a sling, I don't think that's going to happen. We'll find out who's right and who's wrong. Hey, Neon Dreams, thank you. I hope you're doing well. The Juliet says, if you think the Hogan reaction was bad online, wait until Vince dies. No, it's going to be a shit show. But again, you know, when it comes to all these people, whether it's Hogan, Flair, Vince, and some are accused of far more heinous things than the other. But again, it's a mess of their own making. So my sympathy doesn't extend to some of these people. You know, I save my sympathy for people who deserve it. Drew McIncock says, never forget, Hogan was the right gay guy at the right place at the wrong time. One of the all-time botches, Hogan botches. Says, rest in peace to the immortal Hulk Hogan. Paul with the 5, rest in peace Hulk Hogan. Isn't it weird for Hogan to come out with a beer? He's no Austin. Seems like an attempt to keep his brand relevant. Well, I mean, Hogan was approached constantly by people who wanted him to license his name and likeness to them, to slap it on all kinds of products. You know, the beer thing is something that came to him. You know, I doubt he's the one who said, hey, you know what I need? I need a beer. You know, that new restaurant that was just announced, that it's going to be called Slam, but it's going to be filled with Hogan memorabilia. I'm going to be showing Hogan matches on a loop on the screens. That is still moving forward. The owner came out and said that we are moving forward. The plan is to open it in the fall. It'll be like a big dedication to Hogan. It's going to be right across the street from Madison Square Garden. So that project is still happening. Jeremy Rose with the $25 super chat. Thought Cena said that he was all in for this retirement tour. No movies. Dude decided to do movies during his 2 biggest matches. If they year with the face of WWE, Cody, leaving Cody to carry the yeah, I don't know, something got botched there, but your point is well taken. It's a shame that he really could not go all in on this run. It just handicaps what they can do, you know, with the weekly television. It makes it hard to watch and harder to invest. It's bad enough that this heel turn has not been good. It really does bother me when I think back now to the way everything has played out and the story that they could have told about him chasing number 17, his final year. It's been so botched. So botched up. But that's what happens when you go into it without any kind of long-term plan. You know, and it's just Triple H saying, hey, Rock is trying to get Cody to turn heel, and we don't want to turn this fucking guy heel. So how about Cena? It's almost as if the only reason, and I think this is what happened, the only reason Cena turned is because Triple H probably panicked, realized it was a terrible idea to turn Cody Rhodes heel, which Rock wanted to do. And Triple H just kind of threw Cena out there as, why don't we go with him? And then shockingly, Rock liked the idea and Cena was okay with it. So we got a John Cena heel turn with no forethought given to, okay, where is this going to go? How exactly is this going to play out? It's like it's being booked on the fly. That's what it feels like. And, you know, that's certainly one way to handle things with anybody else. But when it's your biggest name, one of the biggest names in the history of the company in his retirement tour. I find that to be very fucked up, that you wouldn't have a more rock solid plan well thought out for this guy in advance. Neil says, going to give this comedy stuff a try. What's the difference between a dirty bus stop and a big-breasted crab? One is a crusty bus station, and one is a busty crustacean. I'll see myself out. Neil, I've heard far worse. That one actually is pretty clever. I like that one. A busty crustacean. Linkmaster, buy and sell Dom and Liv or Edge and Lita? Dom and Liv. Jungle Batman, were you happy when Hulk Hogan returned back to the red and yellow in WCW in August of 1999? No, because I had largely stopped paying attention to what they were doing. At that point, they were on the descent. I didn't really care. Did nothing for me. L.A. Bryan, do you feel if Hogan fought Bret Hart at SummerSlam in '93, the WWE would have brought a boom back to the business instead of those lean years we got? No. No, because Hogan was on his way out, and Hogan was still the attraction. Bret Hart was not. And I say that as a big Bret Hart fan. They were trying to make Bret, it would have helped to have that added credibility of him beating Hogan. Bret was not that guy that you were going to build a boom around. Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. These guys were never going to be the people you build a boom period around. They're great supporting characters to whoever that guy is. And Bret, look, I mean, they relied on Bret for a number of years. And I think the job he did was admirable. They would have been far worse without him, you know, to kind of carry the load the way he did there for a few years. But, you know, he was never going to do the business that Hogan did, you know, when he was on top back in the day. So I think business-wise, they were going to have those lean years regardless once Hogan left and Savage left. Steroid trial took Vince's eye off the ball there for a while. Like, they were going to go through that regardless. Uffman Entertainment says that the SummerSlam Night 2 should be renamed Night of Champions. It is all title matches, isn't it? That's more Night of Champions than Night of Champions was. Ace Italiano. I'm a 90s kid, so my first memories of Hulk Hogan was Hollywood Hogan in the NWO, playing the air guitar. He, along with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, were the coolest guys and was he was a big NWO fan. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Yeah, that's why I laugh when you'll find people every now and then, and WWE does this, and I get it because DX was their faction, not the NWO. But they try to compare the two as if they're on like the same plane. Which is, it's just so comical to me. Like, DX couldn't hold the NWO's jockstrap. Like, it's not a 1A, 1B thing. It's NWO. Then you could put DX. Some people forget just how big the NWO was before they literally got too big. Linkmaster, we got a Triple H against Triple H match in 2002.
Shut the fuck up.
Hulk against Hunter.
Fuck that tree.
This tree is pissing me off. There you go. I'm gonna cut that shit down. There you go. Juster Benz. Nothing better than a solo stream on my birthday. Happy birthday, Juster. I hope it's a great one. Glad I could be a part of it. Even if just for a couple of hours. Duff's Vids, I got a Viagra stuck in my throat today. Had a stiff neck. all day. $500. Do we have 500 likes? It's the one thing I don't have in front of me. Yes, we did. 500 likes. Thank you, guys. Holiday 197, what matches are you most and least looking forward to watching at SummerSlam? Most is the Women's World Title Triple Threat match. Like, by far. That's the match I'm looking forward to the most. The one I'm looking forward to the least is probably the Jelly Roll match. Duff's Vids, getting my kite stuck in a tree isn't my favorite thing, but it's up there. Thank you, Duffs. Linkmaster, Jelly Roll can use Rolling Thunder and Shake, Rattle, and Roll. Jelly Roll needs a finishing move where he doesn't have to move. Like, he just has to stand there. I'm trying to think what would be the best thing for him to do. So he doesn't have to, like, really take a bump. A bear hug? He can do a bear hug. Jeremy Rose, hate how WWE makes these celebrities look so strong. They should almost always get smashed to get heels major heat and look realistic. Logan looks stronger against Roman than Jelly Roll. Look at this. Look at the super chat message and look at the GIF. Like, it's just perfect. Favorite Hogan moment as you see Triple H burying somebody in a grave. Duff's Vids, how does Harry Potter go down a hill? Walking. JK Rowling. Oh my god. JK Rowling. How do you come up with these? Fried chicken. If Drew McIntyre eats the pin at SummerSlam, he's going to beg Nick Khan to bring back The Rock to WWE. And we don't need that. Also, it won't surprise me if Austin Theory and Carmelo Hayes both take their talents to TNA or AEW once their contracts are up. You know, one of my predictions on the prediction show earlier this year is that Austin Theory ends up in AEW. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but who's to say it doesn't happen, right? Like you said, or TNA. Linkmaster, Hogan is playing bass for Ozzy in heaven. Yeah, you know, Black Sabbath lost its frontman, and I guess Metallica lost its bassist. All in the same week. Also says, Hogan died during Cena's retirement tour. 2 goats. Jeremy Rose, not surprised Cena disappeared when Nikki Bella returned. The Big Fundamental, Tim Duncan. Did you know that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is not his real name? His actual name is Lou Alcindor. I did not know that. Jerome Eugenio. Thank you, Jerome, with the $2. Duff's Vids, it's a 5-minute walk from my house to the bar. It's a 35-minute walk from the bar to my house. The difference is staggering. It's even crazier when you walk in and you realize that it's not your house. Linkmaster X, what video games were or are you the best at? The best at? Probably none, but I mean, I used to do okay in Mortal Kombat. Mario Kart. I wouldn't say I'm the best. Have you ever seen an episode of Sound Off Gamer? I wouldn't say I'm the best. Lord Frieza. Solo, my man. Random question, even though I know the answer. Do you think the what chant will outlive us? Yes. Yes, it will. Unfortunately. Elijah with the $50 super chat. With Cody going to film his movie after SummerSlam and Cena needing to drop the title, I have a feeling Seth is going to cash in on that match, especially after what happened with him and Cena at Night of Champions. What are your thoughts? I think it's a possibility. I just don't see Cody being gone for that long to warrant him either not winning the championship or having to drop it quickly. You know, he's playing Guile in a Street Fighter movie with all these other people that have been cast for this film. I mean, I don't even know what kind of speaking role he might have, if any, in the movie. How long could he possibly be gone for filming? A couple weeks? I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, honestly. I think he'll disappear maybe for a little bit, but he'll be back pretty quick. You know, if you do that with Rollins, you've got to move the entire group over to SmackDown. So that includes Breaker, Reed, Heyman. I don't know. I don't see them doing that. Sean Waters. My childhood has died a little between Ozzy and Hulk, but I think that breaks my heart the most with Hogan is that he didn't get to mend fences. I would hope he would mend it in his personal life and with the fans. One never knows when one's time is up. So if you are someone who has not mended fences with a friend or a family member and you've been thinking about it, probably better not to wait, because you never know what tomorrow may bring. You think it's something worth doing, and it's something not worth putting off. Holiday 197, thoughts on the 6-way TLC at SummerSlam? I think it's either going to be great or a big cluster mess. With these teams, it's not going to be a cluster. It's going to be great. They've been working together so much over the last few months. I mean, they know each other inside out in the ring, and this is a huge stage for them. Like, to be on the card at MetLife Stadium, there's no way this is anything but a very good match. Says WWE, totally making it up for not having the SmackDown tag titles defended at WrestleMania. Yes, indeed. Chris Ludek, during the tag team brawl with the security guards, one of my best friends, an up-and-coming wrestler, Pedro Tavares Jr., a.k.a. Pat Angel, was one of the security guards. He will be in NXT soon. That's very cool. To go from security geek to NXT superstar. It's like a rite of passage. Well, I hope he does well to update me on his journey. Linkmaster, Hogan's Wrecking Ball commercial is iconic. Yeah, you know, that's one I'd like to try to forget, actually, is him buck naked on that wrecking ball. Arabian Night, shaking my head. Kiana will get people to care even less for Julia. Not if they do it right. If they do it right, they should both get over. Luis with the 5. Mohammed bin Salman won't ask to have Hogan on the Saudi shows now that the Hulkster is no longer with us. I don't know. I mean, supposedly the Saudis on that first show they ever did asked for Yokozuna. They didn't know he had passed away. That's why we had that sumo wrestler. I forgot his name already. Remember they had like a random sumo wrestler in the Greatest Royal Rumble back in 2018? Such a great story. Oh yeah. We'll get him on the show. Sure, no problem. Jeremy Rose, what are your expectations of the 6-team TLC match? Do you think they might steal the show? Will they start Sunday? Oh, you mean open the show? Interesting. Let me see here. Let me on my end here, I have the graphic. Let me take a quick look here. The other matches on the Sunday show. You know what? I probably would. I was going to say either that or Becky and Lyra. One of those two matches I would open the Sunday show with. Jungle Batman, do you think Dom and Liv could be this generation's Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth? No. There will only be one Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. Pretty sad to think like the entire Mega Powers crew, Hogan, Savage, Liz, all gone. All gone. Jeremy Rose, have a feeling Tala Tonga is going to rip the door off the cage so WWE can portray him as a menacing giant and help Solo retain. You know what? They need to do stuff like that with him because he just comes across as the least intimidating 7-footer that I have ever seen on a wrestling show. So maybe that's what he needs. He needs more like feats of strength. But he just has to, I feel like he has to just, I don't know, project that menacing personality better. I don't think he does enough of it. Linkmaster, Hogan and Sabu are wrestling in heaven. I don't even think in heaven Hogan wants any part of Sabu in the ring. Arabian Night, if Seth didn't get hurt, quote unquote, would he have faced Roman one-on-one and have the bronze against LA Knight and Jey Uso? Yeet and yeah. It's a crime no LA Knight and Julia on SummerSlam. Yeah, LA Knight, no match on the show. It's I don't, to answer your question, no, I don't think that was the plan. So I don't know what they would have had LA Knight doing if the Rollins injury, maybe it's a minor one, if that impacted LA Knight's plans. But it is quite ridiculous that he is not on this show. Alex says, Brother Solo, life teaches us that none of us are perfect, and as humans we all make mistakes. Lost a legend and condolences to Hogan's family and friends. Why do you think we never got that Hogan and Austin match? It just never lined up. You know, they had a chance to do it in 2002. I don't think Austin wanted to work with Hogan. I think he just felt like it would not have been a good match. It would not have worked. Maybe there were political reasons he didn't want to work with Hogan. I know years later he said he regretted that they never had the chance to work together, but I don't think he wanted to work with him that year at WrestleMania. And so that would have been the time to do it. There was really no other time to get it done as Stone Cold Steve Austin. I know when he was Stunning Steve, one of the reasons I think he wanted out of WCW was because he wanted to work with Hogan in the mid-90s, but that wouldn't have meant anything. It would not have meant nearly as much. Hogan and Austin is the biggest, to me anyway, the biggest box office match that never happened. But looking back on it now, Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania 18 was the right way to go. You weren't going to get as good of a match with Austin and Hogan. Duff's Vids, when Hogan said he got hit by a jet ski before WrestleMania 9, was this before or after his appearance on Baywatch, where he also got, quote, hit by a jet ski? I don't know. When did that episode of Baywatch air? I have no memory of that episode of Baywatch. He got hit by a jet ski on Baywatch? Linkmaster, Hogan versus HBK was 20 years ago. Yeah, and did quite the buy rate. It surprised even WWE how big that buy rate was. Almost like 650,000 buys for that show. Just to show you how much of a draw Hogan still could be, even in 2005. Imagine what a Hogan-Austin match would have done. Jungle Batman, were you happy when Hulk Hogan returned to the red and yellow in WCW in August of so this is a repeat. No. Just to answer it again, no. Navy 4181, if it was Vince McMahon who had passed away, how do you think WWE would have handled it considering all the controversy from the scandal? I think that they would probably have honored him the same way they did Hogan. I think he's just too big and influential to that company to ignore or just give a graphic to. Jungle Batman, did you play the Suburban Commando video game? I did not. Toby Flanagan, 34 months of membership, rest in peace, Hulk, and all the others that passed this week. Yeah, far too many. Thank you, Toby. Jungle Batman, where do you rank Hogan versus Goldberg on Nitro from Hogan's WCW run? Well, I mean, it depends on what you mean. In terms of business, in terms of storylines, in terms of box office, it's Hogan's thing. In terms of the actual match itself and the significance of that match, I think it's peak Hogan from WCW. Peak Goldberg and peak Hogan at the Georgia Dome that night. Got formerly known as Dr. Scorpio with us. $7 super chat. Despite mixed feelings on Hogan in and outside of wrestling, his impact will be forever remembered. He gave us some good and bad wrestling memories. Gonna miss the rants calling out his lies. No, those lies will live on forever. We may not get any more of them, but I think there's more than enough to keep us occupied. Power Spying Games, rest in peace, Malcolm Jamal Warner. I echo that. It was very sad. Juster Benz, what is the best era to start watching WCW? You know what I think doesn't get enough love? It's kind of underrated. Early 90s WCW, like around 92, 93. I know business wasn't great. Go check out some of the matches, especially the War Games matches from that era. But you had Flair, you had Rude and Vader and Sting and Cactus. It's a lot of good stuff during that period. Juster Benz, where does Travis Scott fit into all of this? How about I don't give a shit? He doesn't. I don't ever want to see him on this fucking show ever again. I think the fact that he will forever now be associated with the John Cena heel turn and him winning number 17 at WrestleMania is a disgrace. Rob, 4 months of membership. El Grande Americano won his match at AAA tonight. Still the best luchador since 1948. Still undefeated too, isn't he? I mean, I know he didn't win Money in the Bank, but I mean in terms of singles matches, right? He's still undefeated. Bobby Means, the Hulkster will not be forgotten. I was 4 years old in 1994 when he and Flair fought for the title. What are your top 5 Hogan matches? Oh, I don't know as far as top 5, but you got to have Hogan Andre on there just for its significance. Hogan Warrior, WrestleMania 6. Hogan Rock, WrestleMania 18. So those are for sure. Hogan Goldberg, just talked about it. Eminem, whether Hogan did good things and bad things, one thing is true. We all wouldn't be here watching you if it wasn't for Hogan. Well, not everybody. My birthday is going to suck since me and Hogan share the same birthday. Was that August 11th? Yeah, Hogan would have been 72. Anderson, Hogan deserved to get booed in January, but it's a shame that this was his last appearance. It doesn't take away his impact in making wrestling as big. No, it does not. Linkmaster, favorite Hogan moment. You know, my favorite Hogan like segment or angle was the Mega Power split on NBC in '89. But I mean, as far as moments, I know Andre is sort of the easy go-to. For me personally, it was him kicking out of the rock bottom and hulking up and getting that reaction and making that big comeback at WrestleMania 18. Jungle Batman says, are you going to see the new Fantastic Four movie, and are you a fan of the Fantastic Four? I was when I was younger. I didn't see any of the previous Fantastic Four movies. My understanding is this is a reboot. I think that the director said you don't need to do any homework. This is a new universe, a totally new clean slate with this movie. And it has Pedro Pascal in it, who I like. So I'm thinking about seeing it. I mean, it's getting good reviews from what I've seen. So I might see it. Linkmaster, buy and sell John Travolta or Nicolas Cage. They're not two of my favorites, honestly. I'll go Travolta, though. I like Travolta in Pulp Fiction, so I'll go with Travolta. Linkmaster, and look, I like both of them in Face Off. Linkmaster X says, please call me Based Beerus. Is that who it is? Honestly, I didn't realize. And I'm going to forget. I'll try to remember, but I know I'll forget. There's so many names. You can't change it, huh? You could probably change it on your end to like @Base Beerus. Jeremy Rose, why is Cena Cody a street fight? Why can't Cena lose clean? What's the plan? I don't know. We're going to find out what the plan is. Why is it a street fight? Because their first match was terrible. And maybe they feel, now they probably have some kind of finish plan where, you know, they don't want to be in a situation where disqualifications are allowed. But I also think they look at it and say, okay, we already had a straight singles match. So instead of having another straight singles match, we have to have a stipulation. Thus, it's a street fight. It may not be much deeper than that. Rob says, El Grande Americano just did a promo in almost perfect Spanish in AAA. What a legend. He is my Mexican hermano. The Dapper Doctor. Which version of Hogan had a bigger impact on wrestling? NWO Hogan or Hulkamania Hogan? Hulkamania Hogan. GMB says, no Tiff Jade promo segment. They have no faith in them. Well, that's there's one more show next week. You know, wait until next week and see. I still think they may be tag team partners in a match, but they didn't announce that. But also, neither one of them are great promos. Like, they're not. Jade's okay. Tiffany's okay. Tiffany's not great on the mic. So it's not like we're missing out on much. We got Drew McIntyre. Says, good night, Hulkamaniacs and jabroni marks without a life that don't know it's a work when you work a work and work yourself into a shoot. Do you know I have that tweet and he deleted it a few years ago? I'm so sad. It was from like 2011 and he deleted it after however many years. But somebody, listener of the show, actually framed that tweet. It's a nice frame too. And sent it to me. And I have it. It is forever immortalized. One of the greatest tweets ever tweeted. Chase Richardson. Feel sorry for New Yorkers. Jaywalk, you get beat up by the Avengers. Ghostbusters, loud ass car. Ninja Turtles in the sewer. Gremlins doing shit. Yeah, we got everything here. Wasn't there a disaster movie that came out a few years ago where like Manhattan was being flooded? The sea level rose or whatever. I mean, there's been so many disaster movies. I haven't seen most of them, but I vaguely recall there being commercials for a movie like that. There's always something here. Jungle Batman, who is your favorite Married with Children character? Al. It's Al Bundy. Groovy Goose, what's your favorite movie set in New York City? A movie set in New York City. Cloverfield. Don't laugh at me. Ace Italiano, now with Hogan gone, can we talk about his match with Andre going into the Hall of Fame? I would expect that to probably happen next year. Devin, cherish, keep, borrow, and sell on these Hogan moments. Winning his first world title, slamming Andre, the heel turn, and hulking up against The Rock. I'm gonna cherish hulking up against The Rock. I'm gonna keep the Andre slam. I'm going to borrow the heel turn and sell on him winning the title for the first time. We got Dr. Scorpio. Yes, you can change your @name from your channel like I did. There you go. You guys want to try to get your old names back, or as close to it as possible. I know for a fact that you can do it from your end. You have to go into your settings. Just be careful when you start making changes in there. And you could probably change your @handle. I guess if it's not already taken by somebody else. Linkmaster X, let's get Hogan on Be the Booker tonight. He's in there. He's in there a few times. And the Dapper Doctor, $4.99. Who would you consider to be Hogan's top 3 rivals? And his top 3 match. Well, I talked about the matches already. I guess that was kind of more my favorites. Obviously, look, the Andre one is number 1. Like, there's no thought that even has to go into that. Just for its significance alone. Like, all these major mainstream news shows that have been reporting on his death, like, the B-roll on all of these stories is Hogan Andre from WrestleMania 3 and him slamming Andre. Like, it's a legendary match. It might not be the best wrestling match, but it's an iconic match. And it's an iconic moment in front of a huge crowd. So Hogan Andre is definitely on there. Biggest matches. Well, I mean, the Goldberg match. I don't know what that third match would be. For me, it would be Hogan Warrior, just because that was such a big fucking deal as a kid growing up. But I think that third match, you might get you'll get different answers from different people. Savage and Hogan was huge too, but Warrior and Hogan was just bigger in a different way. And his top 3 rivals: Andre, Savage, and Sting. Andre, Savage, and Sting. The Dapper Doctor, we went from Grande Americana to Venti Americana. Love Lie, Brother Solo. Any tips on talking to the ladies? Not really. I don't know what your issue is. Are you nervous? Do you say the wrong things? Do you clam up? Best advice I could probably give you is if you have a female friend or a sister or something, try talking to them in a way that you would start a casual conversation with a girl that you like. Use them as like your experiment. And it's just a matter of just interacting with them. Some people just get very nervous. They don't know what to say. They start sweating bullets. They get all sweaty. They clam up. They freeze up. You gotta practice. You gotta talk to other people. Pretend there's somebody you actually like. Then report back and let me know how it goes. It's the best advice I can give you. And don't try to be something you're not. Don't pretend that. Don't be fake. Don't pretend to be somebody different. Yes, and don't hit on your own sister. We might do that in some places, but we don't do that here. All right, you guys smashed the gold tonight. I appreciate that very much. Let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
What would I say to Mariah May? I would say, how do you do? She was on a, when she was the AEW Women's World Champion, she was on a Barstool podcast of some kind. She was in studio and she was sitting on a couch with one of the one of the hosts of the show, or God, I forgot who it was. I'm trying to think of the name of the show. Anyway, it's not important. But she's sitting there on the couch, and the guy is on the other side of the couch with her, and he will not look at her. And I think he has his laptop in his lap, and he's looking down, and he's got his mic there. She's got her mic. And like the other hosts are noting that, like, dude, look at her. Like, make eye contact with her if you're addressing her. And then Mariah just goes, why won't you look at me? And like, dude, I'm watching the interview and I'm like, she just has that voice, you know? And I'm like, I get it, dude. I get it. Like this guy, he turned red. Finally, he looks up at her. He's all nervous. Because like, imagine you have a woman like Mariah May, like sitting on the couch, looking you in the eyes, just like telling you, look at me. Why won't you look at me? This guy was dying. He didn't know what to say. Sometimes you just end up in that situation. You know? You get nervous. What are you going to do? He got so red, though. Was the ECW Zombie Solo's first interview? For the show, yes. Yes. I had done an interview previously with one of the Nitro girls. I think it was Nitro Girl Fire. Terry Byrne for a newspaper column many years ago. That was technically my first interview. My first interview was with the Nitro Girl. But yes, Tim Arson was the ECW zombie. He passed away a number of years ago. He was a great guy. That is that's online. It's in the archives. Anyway, Tag Team Be the Booker. Here we go. We begin with Miz and R-Truth. Miz Truth. Eh. Miz Truth is going to be taking on Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. Miz Truth and Red Dragon. I don't know. I gotta be honest. That doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't do it for me. We could do better. Not a match that appeals to me. Tiffany Stratton in women's Be the Booker. She's got the Money in the Bank briefcase here, but we all know what she ended up going on to do with that briefcase. Tiffany Stratton against Nikki Bella. Man, we're really rolling along here, aren't we? We haven't done Be the Booker since Monday, I think. And this is not going the way that I was hoping it would go. We're already up to the main event. Now, Hogan is in here as both Red and Yellow and Hollywood. So wouldn't that be something if we landed on Hogan? Well, that's not Hogan, but that is Mil Mascaras. Mil Muertes. Mil Muertes from Lucha Underground. And where Mil Muertes goes, that means Katrina is not far behind. Now, if I met Katrina, I would be beat red and I would be frozen in my seat. I wouldn't know what to do. Mil Muertes, wow, against Rey Fenix. How about that? That's my favorite Lucha Underground match of all the seasons they did. It was from the very first season. It was their spin on a casket match. They called it Grave Consequences, which is actually one of the stipulations we have here. And wow. So we booked Mil Muertes and Rey Fenix in the main event. I kind of want to run the stipulations now and see if by chance we actually land on. Can you imagine if we landed on Grave Consequences? I got to give it a shot now. Highly unlikely. But let's see. What kind of a match is it going to be? A buried alive match. Well, I mean, it's kind of similar to a casket match, right? I mean, it's almost the same thing. That was a great fucking match. I'm almost positive that Lucha Underground posted the full match on their YouTube channel, which is still up. The channel's up. So you might want to go take a gander and see. It was a great match. A very bloody match, but it was a great match. And the Dapper Doctor. Aside from Austin, what was the Hogan match that got away? I mean, that was the main one, honestly. I mean, the Hogan match that got away was John Cena, the other one. They were going to do that match at WrestleMania 25. WrestleMania 25 was the silver anniversary of WrestleMania, right? We got Undertaker and Shawn Michaels on that show. If you remember, John Cena, I think, just ended up in a triple threat match, right? Was it Big Show and Edge? I think that it was kind of like, all right, whatever. the plan was at one point, I don't know how far along they got. It might have just been an idea, but the idea was to do John Cena and Hulk Hogan on that show for the 25-year anniversary of WrestleMania. And Hogan ended up having another back surgery, I think in February. So that was that. We never got it. In fact, the last match Hogan ever had in WWE was in 2006 at SummerSlam against Randy Orton. He never had another match for them after that. The last matches he had were in TNA. So I guess that would be the other one. That would have been like a clash of generations, Hogan and Cena. But yeah, it never came to pass. Full matches there, says Raph. There it is. Lucha Underground, Grave Consequences. Full fight, March 18. Okay, so it's listed 3/18/15. Yeah, just search for it on YouTube. It's there. So yeah, I mean, what kind of a match Hogan and Cena would have had in 2009? Probably not very good. I mean, like Hogan Rock at WrestleMania in 2002. Hogan was younger. Rock played his part perfectly because you could tell there was a moment in that match where he pivoted. It felt like he pivoted from babyface to heel. Cena in 2009, was he enough of a veteran at that point to have to carry the load against Hogan, which is probably what he would have had to do, given his physical limitations? I don't think that would have been a very good match. John Cena back then in 2009 was not racking up all these great matches. He would go on to have many great matches, but that's a match that would have been more of an attraction. And then the bell rings, right? And then you're really relying on the crowd at that point to be so much behind Hogan that you get maybe another Hogan Rock moment. The quality of that match, though, probably would not have been very good. But anyway, as I said earlier, I am going to go into greater depth on Hogan. I have not, outside of what I said at the beginning of the show here, which was very brief, gotten into any of this stuff. I will address Hogan, his death, his life, his career, his controversies, all of it, warts and all, on the podcast on Sunday. So I hope you will tune in to episode 922 for that. Plus, we'll go through the SummerSlam lineup, do predictions for that show. I've got thoughts on Eric Bischoff's comments about TNA possibly overtaking AEW within the next 12 months if they can get a good TV deal. Yeah, we'll talk about that. And whatever else pops up between now and then. So that'll be the Sunday show. And then back here for the Raw post show live on Monday night. It's going to be a busy weekend next weekend. Again, I will not be here for SmackDown next Friday. I will be at the NYC Arena, the biggest House of Glory show of the year. High intensity. It's our big summer show. Ricochet's back for the first time in 8 years. He's wrestling the Amazing Red. Bring your toilet paper. So that's on the show. We have Carlito is back. He's challenging Charles Mason for the championship. Indy Hartwell is defending her title against Priscilla Kelly. Zilla Fatu was on Busted Open Radio the other day with Bully Ray, throwing shade at each other. So we made it official. Bully Ray, Zilla Fatu, Crown Jewel title. All that and more. That's where I'll be next Friday. And then next weekend is SummerSlam. So you're going to get me for 2 nights, back to back. Get ready. It's going to be a busy weekend. Be well. Stay safe. Thank you for all the love tonight. Thank you for all the questions. And do tune in to episode 922 of The Sound Off on Sunday. It will be, as far as news coverage over the years, I've covered some big stories before. This is among the biggest. This is among the big, because again, whether you were a fan of his or not, the death of Hulk Hogan is one of the biggest stories in wrestling ever, because he was the biggest star that this business has ever seen. I mean, it's inarguable. So there'll be a lot to go through there. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Take care.